Have you ever bonked during a marathon? It is literally one of the worst things ever. You will see people literally crawling across the finish line or just like stumbling and falling on their face trying to get across the finish line. Bonking during a marathon is one of the worst feelings ever. And in this video, I'm going to tell you how to not let that happen. Let's get to it. The Boston Marathon is in 5 days, and I'm going to teach you guys how to carb load and how to hopefully not bonk during a marathon. And one of the primary things you need to do is carb load properly. A lot of research has been done on this, but the most recent paper shows that the ideal carb load happens 48 hours before the race. So 48 hours before the race, you want to consume 10 to 12 grams of carbohydrates per kilogram of body weight. Example, I'm 80 kilos. So for me, I'll consume anywhere between 800 to 900 grams of carbohydrates for 48 hours leading up to the race. Boston is on Monday. That means Saturday I will consume about 8 to 900. Sunday I'll consume about 8 to 900. The reason being is when you are running a marathon, you are primarily burning carbohydrates as fuel because your heart rate is pretty high. And so what you want to do is make sure that your liver glycogen is completely topped off and all of your carbohydrate stores are topped off as much as possible. And research shows that can be done with a 48-hour carb load of the 10 to 12 grams per kilogram of carbohydrates. But that's not it. It doesn't end there. You also have to get carbohydrates through the race or you're not going to sustain the effort you need to sustain to have a good race. And so ideally, depending on your body weight, your size, and how you metabolize carbs, you need somewhere between the 60 to 90 grams of carbohydrates per hour from the very beginning of the race. So for myself, I'll consume 100 grams of carbohydrates per hour. I'll do one gel every 20 minutes throughout the race, and I'll be drinking a carbohydrate drink to hit that 100 gram per hour mark throughout the marathon. Now that alone will help you not bonk in a considerable way. It'll give you the energy. It'll give you the fuel you need to go the 26.2 miles. But something that you should know is if you have not experimented with carb loading, if you've never carb loaded or you've never consumed this many carbs in a race, I would caution you to do what has worked for you while you do your long runs. But in the future, consider doing carb loading. The second piece of making sure you do not bonk and have a terrible day is make sure you have an adequate taper. Tapering occurs depending on the person anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks out from your highest mileage week. And now that we're close to this marathon, a lot of you, hopefully you've already done this. And it is reducing your training load substantially throughout these 3 weeks and keeping the relative intensity kind of high to make sure that your legs are still firing on all cylinders and will be able to run fast on race day. So for me, for example, 3 weeks ago, I decreased my training volume by about 20%, the next week by about another 20%, and this week by another 20%. So currently I'm at about 35%-ish of my total weekly volume that I was doing for my marathon prep, but this week I've kept the intensity relatively high. So today I'm 5 days out and I did a workout that spanned over 8 miles with some 6 minute per mile paces throughout just to make sure I'm keeping the intensity high and keeping the body knowing what it feels like to run fast but not getting all that volume on my body so that I can still recover. So making sure you have a good carb load and a good taper is essential to not bonking during a marathon. And then the last piece would be sleep. Sleep is your secret weapon to make sure that you recover and that you are ready to hit the marathon firing on all cylinders. Sleep is the secret potion to recovery and being able to race your best. I have to say, I'm not an expert at it. I struggle all the time to get adequate sleep, but ideally you should be getting 7 to 9 hours a night every single night if possible, especially leading up to the race. Now, if you get to race morning and you had bad sleep the night before, do not worry. It is the sleep that you've had over the past 2 to 3 weeks that are really going to be key here leading up to the race. So if you have carb loaded properly, you hit your taper, and you are getting adequate sleep, the last thing is on race day, do not mess it up. And so how could you mess it up on race day? And it would be going out way too hot, way too fast. And so you do not need to be running sub race pace early on in a marathon. Really, how I like to do a marathon would be break it up into 4 different segments. The first 1 mile to 13 miles, I like to say that 25% of my tank has been emptied. So I want to feel like I have 75% left to give at the halfway mark. And then miles 13 to 18, I like to empty the next 25%. So at mile 18, a 50% energy left to give. And then at mile 22, I have drained another 25%. So I have 25% left for the last 4 miles. This has helped me to be able to negative split almost every marathon I've ever done. And I believe it has helped me to perform my best. Whereas if you do this the alternative way, and at 13.1 miles, you've already drained half of your tank or more than half, it is going to be really hard to do that last 13.1 miles on a tired body and tired legs. So I truly believe in negative splitting. Research supports negative splitting, and I would highly recommend not starting off too hot, too fast. Otherwise, the last couple miles could be brutal. So those are my 4 main tips on how not to bonk during a marathon. I hope this video was helpful. If you found it helpful, please make sure to like and subscribe. And of course, comment with any questions you have. And if you're going to be at Boston, I'll see you guys there.